In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 college football games happening on October 8, 2022, and providing you with team picks and total picks for each one of those games. So 2 picks for each game, 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 college football games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start. If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive betting picks to take your sports betting journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer anywhere from 1 betting pick a day up to 10 betting picks a day and much more. Now let's get started. Utah versus UCLA, the Rose Bowl to play the number 18 UCLA Bruins on Saturday, October 8th, to blemish UCLA's perfect record and take over the lead in the conference. Both teams are on a serious winning streak, Utah at 4, UCLA at 5. Utah has been winning soundly after a rough Week 1 opener, losing by a field goal to the Florida Gators 29-26. UCLA comes off their only real challenge to date this season, a Week 5 upset of fellow Pac-12 high flyer, the number 15 Washington Huskies, 40-32. The Utes are coming off a Week 5 42-16 win against the Oregon State Beavers, where the Utes were favored and blew past that like a beaver through poplar. The Utes and Bruins are surprisingly similar, as the current point spread indicates, so this contest is a bit of a nut to crack. But we've been diving deep into data, crunched the numbers, and have it figured out for you. I've had this game circled for a few weeks now situationally, as Utah goes on the road to face UCLA with a look-ahead spot to USC in the Utes' next game. It played out exactly as I hoped it would. Utah bounced back from its opening week loss at Florida in impressive fashion. The Utes have averaged 46 points per game on offense and have allowed just under 11 points per game on defense in the last 4 games. What I didn't expect situationally is for UCLA to be as good as it has been. The unbeaten Bruins are scoring 41 points per game and allowing just 20, while having the 6th best run defense in the nation. So it's not surprising that this line is shorter than what I had hoped for. But Utah also may be a little overvalued here, especially when you look at last week in its win over Oregon State. Utah was outgained by the Beavers, gave up more first downs, and benefited from 4 Oregon State turnovers, including a pick 6. In fact, the Utes offense hasn't scored more than 35 points in a game this season except against FCS Southern Utah. Plus, UCLA will take away the best thing that Utah does, which is run the football. Utah quarterback Cam Rising had come into the season as a fringe Heisman Trophy candidate, but it's been UCLA quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson that is making headlines, completing nearly 75% of his passes on the season with 11 touchdowns and just 1 interception, leading the Bruins offense to more than 500 yards per game. How will that fare against a Utah pass defense that giving up just 155 yards per game through the air? This game will be about the success that Utah can have on the ground. Utes running back Tavion Thomas is averaging just 4.4 yards per carry and will face his toughest test yet. And how well will Utah be able to stop the Bruins on 3rd down, as UCLA is 6th best in the nation on 3rd downs by converting nearly 57% of their chances. UCLA is 4-1 against the spread in its last 5 games as a home dog. Head coach Chip Kelly can get a big-time win at home, as the Bruins' offense is too much, so the UCLA Bruins to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The sportsbooks are expecting a high-scoring affair, even though both teams can play tough defense. The Utes' passing defense is one of the best in the country, while the Bruins' run D has been outstanding so far this season. On the flip side, both Utah and UCLA have put a ton of points on the scoreboard since the start of the season. I'm expecting the Utes to contain the Bruins' electrifying offense. UCLA will slow down Utah's rushing game. The way both of these offenses have performed, this looks like an easy over. But anytime you have a defense that can make the opposition one-dimensional, it can lead to limited scoring. Utah probably won't have much success on the ground given the UCLA run defense. How much will Utes head coach Kyle Whittingham stick with the run? It's hard to say, especially if UCLA can take a 2-score lead. In both teams' previous games, they were able to score quickly and often, which makes this number feel a little inflated. This is a game that could literally take the loser out of the Pac-12 title game. As such, I think the pace starts a little slower and the teams check each other in the first half, especially with the UCLA run defense being able to keep Utah in third and long situations, and in how Utah's pass defense could limit Bruins quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson to completing less than 75% of his passes, and you have a great recipe for a low-scoring game. Additionally, 3 of the last 4 meetings between these two Pac-12 rivals have produced 65 or fewer points in total. Under the projected total is our full game total pick. Duke versus Georgia Tech. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets play host to the Duke Blue Devils on Saturday afternoon from Bobby Dodd Stadium in a crucial Atlantic Coast Conference showdown. Duke bounced back nicely from their final non-conference game against Kansas, grabbing the win at home against Virginia last week. For Georgia Tech, a wild week that saw them fire their head coach on Monday, then saw them spring the upset over Pittsburgh over the weekend. The Yellow Jackets have won 2 in a row overall in the series, and considering what is at stake for both teams in this one, it should be an intriguing matchup. The Blue Devils are 3-13 against the spread in their last 16 road games and 3-8 against the spread in their last 11 games overall. The Yellow Jackets are 8-23 against the spread in their last 31 home games and 3-10 against the spread in their last 13 games overall. The under is 4-1 in Blue Devils' last 6 games overall. The under is 6-1 in Yellow Jackets' last 7 games overall. The Blue Devils are 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 meetings. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are fresh off an upset victory over Pittsburgh last week and will follow that up by hosting the Duke Blue Devils this Saturday for some Atlantic Coast Conference action. That game against Pitt was their first since the firing of head coach Jeff Collins, but Tech was extremely fortunate to escape with that win. Pittsburgh committed 12 penalties and 3 turnovers to 4 penalties and 0 turnovers for Georgia Tech. The Panthers outgained Tech by 77 yards but couldn't stop the run as Hassan Hall ran for 157 yards on 20 carries, including a 60-yard scamper for the Yellow Jackets. Duke's defense has been much improved under new head coach Mike Elko outside of their game against Kansas and the Jayhawks' lethal offense. They held Virginia to under 300 yards of offense and 17 points last week as they opened conference play and have allowed 19 points per game through their first 5 contests. Georgia Tech's offense has been anemic to begin the year. Their 11.5 points per game against Power 5 schools is not encouraging, and their passing game is one of the weakest in the nation. Quarterback Jeff Sims is a versatile athlete who can make plays with his legs but lacks the accuracy to make poor secondaries pay. Tech has the 124th ranked pass blocking unit, according to Pro Football Focus, and Sims has been sacked 17 times, which ranks 126th nationally. When Sims does have time, his pass catching threats aren't the highest of quality, ranking 105th in receiving grade from Pro Football Focus. Georgia Tech does have a solid defense that plays hard, but the Duke offense has been extremely efficient this season. They are well balanced with the ability to run or pass, and sophomore QB Riley Leonard has completed over 72% of his passes. Their offensive line has allowed only 5 sacks, and their 5.1 yards per carry as a team ranks 21st in the nation. Duke has been the beneficiary of a +8 turnover differential, and that is unlikely to be sustainable, but the Georgia Tech home field advantage is minimal, and on pure talent and production from these teams, this spread seems light. This line is a bit confusing to me as the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets were considered one of the worst teams in the country, and now all of a sudden perception changes after a win over Pitt. The Duke Blue Devils are far and away the more balanced and proven team, and they're one of the more explosive offensive teams in the country. Even with last week's win, Georgia Tech is a train wreck offensively and isn't much better on defense. You could argue this line should be steeper, so the Duke Blue Devils to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. This expects to be one of the lower scoring games of the weekend in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and for Duke, their running game will dictate how this one goes. Duke has one of the country's best ground games, and their ability to move the ball with their slew of running options will keep this game low scoring and limit the possessions for both teams. For the Yellow Jackets, their own struggles moving the ball are likely to be magnified in this one, and without plenty of opportunities to take advantage of short field situations as well, points will be tough to come by. Additionally, the under is 6-1 for Duke in their last 7 road games and is 4-0 in Georgia Tech's last 4 home games. In the last 7 meetings between the two teams at Georgia Tech, the under is also 5-2. Under the projected total is our full game total pick. North Carolina versus Miami, Florida. The North Carolina Tar Heels and the Miami Hurricanes meet Saturday in college football action from Hard Rock Stadium. North Carolina is fresh off a game versus Virginia Tech. In that one, the Tar Heels took a 31-point blowout win. As for Miami, they're coming off of an open week. The Hurricanes last took a loss to Middle Tennessee. When these two teams faced off in 2021, it was North Carolina that won 45-42. In Drake May, UNC has one of the best quarterbacks in the country and an aggressive go-for-it spirit that is reflected in stellar offensive third and fourth down conversions. Last week, UNC quarterback tried to hurdle a defender and wound up 6 feet in the air flying before a crash that caused the crowd's heart stoppage for a moment while May caught his breath. UNC's completion percentage is 65% versus Miami's 56%. UNC's third down conversion is 48% versus Miami's 40%. UNC is averaging north of 46 points per game this season. Miami has 35 points. While UNC has a rather dismal defense, Miami just does not have a complete package total offense to answer one for one and keep in the game. Miami throws more than 3 times the amount of interceptions per game as North Carolina, which will mute Miami's tempo. The Tar Heels did very well versus Virginia Tech over the weekend, notching 527 yards of offense and 24 first downs. Defensively, North Carolina held the Hokies to 273 yards, 3.9 yards per play, and 14 first downs overall. As for Miami, the extra week of has probably done the team some good, and they've needed it. The Hurricanes gave up 507 yards of offense and 3 turnovers in the Middle Tennessee loss, notching a spotty 4.1 yards per play and 7 of 20 on third down tries. Watch Drake May and company, with a little help from a mediocre Miami offense, cover the Hurricanes like Doppler radar. So the North Carolina Tar Heels to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. While Drake May is the number 6 top passing yardage QB in college football, there's a pack of his cohorts right behind him on his heels in the hunger department. They play hungry and it shows. UNC simply takes more risks on third downs and fourth down conversion rates and has the deep bench of talent on offense to run up the numbers. The talent shows. UNC has a completion percentage of 65%. Compare this to the lesser offense of Miami's 56%. UNC is averaging north of 46 points per game this season. Miami has 35 points. Even in the last 3 more challenging games, the points average for UNC has hardly slipped, but Miami's has fallen to 23. Expect UNC to keep up the average and Miami to hang more than 23 on the heels. Defensively, UNC is the mirror opposite of their offense, with one of the worst ranked defenses in college football FBS. The Tar Heels have a worse opponent completion percentage, opponent third down conversion rate, and opponent red zone scoring percentage than Miami, all by around 8 percentage points minimum. UNC has one of the worst ranked defenses in terms of opponent points scored per game and opponent yards per game, setting the stage for even a mediocre jumble of a Miami offense to put points on the board. With UNC's May and Tar Heels aggressive coaching gunning, and Miami answering and return with their mediocre offense against a pretty bad, but good enough to rack up the points, this matchup will prove to be a high-scoring offensive one, so get the popcorn out, folks. Over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.